So just kind of set the table for those that do not know this. Every college football and or athletics department, they have an event like this every offseason. In fact, they usually have multiple. A lot of them happen in the month of May, where the head coach goes around to different communities, whether it's around the country or around the state in which the school resides. And it's a fundraiser, but it's a get to know you as well. And whenever it's a first year head coach, done this enough times, like there's a buzz, there's an excitement. So for Washington State, this is their annual event. And to Jim's point, year 10. Year 10 doing this event. It's what our newsletter talks about at yoption.com as well. Like how fast time goes. I mean, Jim, I could see Mike Leach on the stage right now in vintage Mike Leach with a cocktail in one hand. He probably, was spitting something into like a paper cup in the other while holding a mic. And he's talking about a recruiting class, but really he's just telling stories.
Yeah.
And I think of those moments and the conversations afterwards, the conversations on stage. Then it was like when Nick Rolovich got there and the buzz and the quirkiness that he had that was kind of similar to Coach Leach. And then here come Jake Dickert, and he just poured into the program. And I know that there was a salty taste in Cougs' mouth after he left, but I don't think that's a good thing. That's because he left a lasting impact on the program. And now here was Jimmy Rogers. So rolling into the ballroom in year 10, the script has relatively remained the same, like in terms of the auction and the way that it goes. But the spirit and the people is what grabbed me, man. Like it was really cool to see it now with Ann McCoy as the athletics director. Obviously, Pat Chun was there for a long time, did a bunch of events when he was there. So it was beautiful. Like it was really cool to be in that environment. And then the way in which the Cougs are talking about the Pac-12 is really notable for this conversation. And again, we're going to tease our interview with Jimmy Rogers, presented by our partner 76. Keeping you on the go so you never miss a beat. And he didn't miss a beat at all. And this is not about the Cougs of past. And by that, I mean, this is not the chip on the shoulder Washington State program. This is not the, hey, they can get you in the old Pac-12. Be careful when you go to Pullman. They are very clear in their messaging of like, this is the next chapter and we are the face of this league. And them and Oregon State are. Right? Not only are they the longest tenured schools within the league, that's obvious. But when you look at the talent and who they've beaten over the course of the last, call it 20 years, I mean, it's just a different conversation, right? Because they've been in the Pac-12 at the time, the old school Pac-12. So they took down SC at home. They've won Apple Cups. Like it's just different than what the other schools that are entering the league have done. So I like it. It's really bold. I met with the president and the AD. They were up on the panel. And they said, look, there's Power 4, there's Group of 5, and the quote was, and then there's the Pac-12 in like neon green and neon lights. And like we can look at the Pac-12, we should look at the Pac-12 differently than any other conference because it's a relative startup and it's going to be really aggressive. And I think you've seen that with the leadership of Teresa Gould and company. And it was just cool. It was really refreshing. Like when you're sitting up there, like your juices were pumping, man. Like I got to say that from being a long tenured Pac-12 guy, now working in the Big Ten, of course, covering the country here with the Y options through the lens of the West. And you're like, okay, here come the Cougs. So react to that. And then I've got a bold prediction for where I think this team might go.
Well, it's funny when you talk about, they're being the face, and it's almost like they're taking that flag that goes to game day every week and like putting it on the ground and being like, this is us before Boise gets into town, because you want to make sure, like, Boise obviously has a great history of success the last 25 years or however long that's the era you want to go back to, coming off the CFP last year. But it is those two schools as the face of it. And it's interesting when you look at those, to me, looking at those two schools, last year, Jake Dickert was the experienced head coach, having been at that, with that program for a few years. They had the kind of the more known quantity at quarterback with John Mateer, whereas with Oregon State, it was Trent Bray's first year as a full-time head coach. The quarterback situation was a little uncertain. And now this year, I feel like that's kind of flipped. And, where you look at the portal and there's people going, right, left, and every which direction. I was looking at Washington State's roster this morning, and there was not a ton of guys whose names I recognized just because there's been so much turnover. And I mean, I spent a lot of time last year going through Washington State's roster. So, and that's not to say that it's a worse roster than last year by any stretch of the imagination, because just because they lost these guys to the portal and brought these other guys to the portal, like that doesn't mean that these guys over here are not better than these guys over here. So I think there's just a lot less known about Washington State this year, which is, I felt, where Oregon State was last year. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jimmy Rogers, who seems like his staff is pretty much his staff that he had with him at South Dakota State. So at least on that realm, there was a lot of continuity there. There's not a lot of getting to know you with the staff. So I really think this is going to be a really interesting year for this program as to where they go from here.
Yeah, no, it's really compelling. So a couple thoughts on that. Let's just start with the reality of Jimmy Rogers coming in. And for those of you watching on Pac-12 Insider, we appreciate it. Wherever you're watching this thing, whether it's YouTube or Substack, much love. And I know the Coug fans are watching this all over Pac-12 Insider as well. To that point, as I'm up on stage with him and as I'm preparing for the interview, I'm doing the following. I'm thinking, all right, over 15 years at one institution, right? He's learned a way to win, and they have won. They've won big time. Big time they have won. There's like Kalen DeBoer kind of running around my mind a little bit. Oh, yep. Okay, there's something here about coaches who have found their way through various levels. Jake Dicker is another great example. There's a lot of coaches like that. Mike Leach, same deal. Like he didn't just launch onto the scene. Like he found his way in the coaching tree. 2, they brought on almost 20 staffers that were at the previous school with Jimmy Rogers. They added 15 players from the previous school. They all know how to practice, how to win, how to navigate. Interesting. When you think about that, does another team ring a bell from last year? They brought a coach who brought his staff, who brought their players. I'll help you out. I was there a couple times this year. Kurt Signetti, Indiana. Oh. What did Kurt Signetti in Indiana do this past year? They shocked the entire country.
Yeah.
The world did not expect Michigan to be down or UW to be down, the two teams that played in the national championship game a year ago, but they were, right? And here comes Indiana. And look at what they did all season long. And they found themselves into the playoff. When you look at the way the current 12-team format sits, right, I don't think we will anticipate any major changes. I think over the next couple of weeks, we'll find out if there are to the seeding, but we don't really anticipate that coming forward this season. So if you look at that one spot that went to Boise State last year, and you look at how quickly this thing could get up to speed with over 60 new players on the roster, over 70 new players on the roster. They lost 60 guys. Depart. I mean,
crazy.
Like, think about that.
The funny thing is that you say that, like, adding 70 guys, that's becoming the norm now. Like, it's almost like not like you saw it with Colorado, we saw there in the state. Like, that number is almost not as shocking as it should be.
You're right. Like, you're right. But to the point of, like, when you just look at, like, that reality, you're right. That's not shocking. What is hard, though, is when you're Kenny Dillingham in year one and you do that, and you're Deion Sanders, Coach Prime in year one, and you do that. Like, it's hard to do if you don't have your guys. Indiana had their guys. Yeah. The Cougs have a version of that. And then you start looking at the schedule. Idaho, San Diego State, at North Texas. Not going to be easy. But is there any reason to believe that we don't think they can go win those games? Get the Apple Cup at home. You go to Colorado State. Okay, you go to Ole Miss. You go to UVA. Like, those are 2 weekends that, like, got to make sure you take care of yourself, because you don't have a bye for, like, you're just kind of playing through this thing. You got to play in the last four games of the season. You got to play Oregon State twice. Like, not easy, but also not manageable. Like, if Zevi Eckhouse becomes the guy for them, they've just loaded up the quarterback room in the last week, right? Hail to Pitt, Rutgers, 2 quarterbacks that come in that were back as of those 2 respective schools. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't be shocked to see them make a little bit of noise. I'm not saying the playoff noise, but, like, if they can get on a little bit of a run, they have a shot to be a story around the country. Because I'll say it again, like, I think the country, not maybe as much as they were last year, but they're always going to be rooting for the Cougs and Beavs.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows that they got absolutely hosed in this deal. Yeah. Now, to the point I just made, Cougs aren't crying anymore. Like, they're not saying, hey, feel for us. They're saying, no, turn the page.
Right.
Like, We're not saying screw the teams that left us. They're saying, no, like follow us, the teams we just added. And I love that for their branding and their marketing. But from a football standpoint, I think it's going to be a story worth tracking because of the players that had great success that came with Jimmy Rogers.
Well, you know what's interesting is I hadn't even thought about this until you mentioned it, but getting Ole Miss when they get Ole Miss, like if you have to go play a road game at Ole Miss, week 6 is not a bad time to be doing that. So you look at Ole Miss's schedule. Now, Ole Miss is actually coming off of a bye, which is going to be hurtful. But the game before that is they're hosting LSU. And then the week after hosting Washington State, Ole Miss goes to Georgia. So if there's any sort of like looking past the Cougs. Now, to his credit, Lane Kiffin knows a lot about, having to face the Cougs and what can happen with that. But it's not Jackson Dart there anymore. It's going to be that game. To me, just looking at Ole Miss's schedule is a lot more interesting than if you just would have said, "Oh, they have Ole Miss on their schedule. They have to go to Ole Miss this year." Like that I hate the term trap game, but like that has the makings of a trap game. Like you're playing Georgia the next week. Like your focus, it's going to be natural for these players to like be like, "Oh, we got this. We got Georgia next week." But I think Lane's history on the Palouse, even though this game is down in Oxford, I would think is actually a huge plus for Ole Miss for him to be like, "No, guys, you guys don't understand. It's different. It's different with the Cougs, man. This is not the Sentinel coming to town."
Wow, look at you in the dropping some of those random Citadels and
Citadel. I didn't even get the school right.
Yeah,
that's how bad. How bad it is.
You know what? Jimmy Rogers is. I spent some time with him before the event. He was impressive, man. Like within 2 minutes, he's as easy to communicate as any coach that I'm around, right? Like he's young, he's got great energy, but he's got a way about him. And you'll hear that in our conversation. He has got a very strong lens in which he views the craft. Mom was a teacher, dad was in law enforcement. The way he was raised, he's got this humbleness to him. And also, and he knows it. He's like, I get the hype of college football, but I don't really buy into it. And it'll be really interesting to watch his team in a variety of their games. But to your point on that one specifically, because what happened when Indiana went to Ohio State? They got drilled. And Kurt Signetti said, like, the noise got to us, the environment. That's a huge jump from JMU to the Horseshoe, right? It's going to be an insane jump from last year's Jimmy Rogers players to going to Ole Miss. So, like, that'll be the psychology within the game. And I'm just so curious. Might end up going there for training camp. Y option might be going on the road. So we'll keep you posted on that as the season and training camp comes upon us. But overall, Coug fans, it was great to see you. I love all of you. Thank you for the love and support. 10 years doing this event. How lucky would I be if I got to do another 5 more? So I'm politicking to bring me back. But if you don't, I know a lot of other Cougs out there would kill it. I was up there with Michael Bumpus as well, which he was amazing too. He kind of co-hosted the thing, and he's just tracking. I know the Cougs are so proud of what he's done in his career post playing, and he's just a good dude, man. It was fun sharing the stage with him.